Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the stories we're following today. MPs have voted on the federal government's new hate speech law. Bill C-9 will have the final tally. Plus, charges are laid against two 14-year-olds in Edmonton after allegedly using AI to make sexual images of their classmates. And an Alberta community cancels its rodeo parade when tempers flare over a Pro-Alberta float. We have the details.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. After months of debate and hearings and letter-writing campaigns, Ottawa's new Combating Hate Act, Bill C-9, has been passed by MPs in the House of Commons.
The table will now compile the results of the vote.
Yeas pour 189, 189. Nays contre 128, 128.
I declare the motion carried.
The bill passed by a vote of 189 to 128. Most concerning to people of faith is the removal of the good faith religious exemption. The criminal code previously protected individuals from conviction if they expressed a religious opinion or argument in good faith, but that has now been removed. Former Conservative MP Stockwell Day joined Faitine Grisecci at formycanada.com to talk about this moment and what he expects will be a, quote, chilling effect.
Pastors now, not just pastors, but Christians will be very extra more careful about even reading the Bible. I have visited the Soviet Union and talked to people there before the Soviet Union collapsed, heard from legislators there who talked about having to hide their Bibles many, many years ago. These things do happen, and this will be downplayed by mainstream media, but this is a very significant and sad development, not just for freedom of speech, but for freedom of religion. And not just for Christian, it would be the Jewish texts, it would be our the Muslim community. It's a very sad day and a severe blow against religious expression.
But there are other religious groups speaking out in favor of C-9. 7 community organizations, including the Alliance of Canadians Combating Anti-Semitism, Br'nai B'rith Canada, Canadian Women Against Anti-Semitism, and the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs, and the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal, issued a joint statement calling C-9 an important step forward. They say the new law will give law enforcement and prosecutors additional tools to protect targeted communities and hold offenders accountable, including new intimidation and obstruction offenses to protect access to places of worship and community institutions. A special parliamentary committee has issued a report on medical assistance in dying for those who are mentally ill. The Committee of Liberals and Conservatives is recommending that the federal government indefinitely exclude people whose sole underlying condition is a mental illness from applying for MAID. In a report tabled in the House of Commons Wednesday, the Special Joint Committee on Medical Assistance in Dying recommended that the government amend the criminal code to add this exclusion. The 88-page report comes on the 10-year anniversary of MAID being legalized in Canada. A new report from a Senate committee says CBC Radio Canada's news and current affairs content should be periodically analyzed by outside experts in order to assess its fairness and balance. The Senate's Transport and Communications Committee released the report called Local News Matters after hearing from more than 60 witnesses. At an Ottawa press conference on Wednesday, senators were asked if CBC's coverage needs a course correction or if the recommendations is meant as a preventative measure.
It could be considered both, but if there's commentary about the bias of CBC or any news outlet, and that's a public comment, and it's something that we've all heard, then this can not only act as a course correction, but our recommendations are forward-looking, and the intent of that is to ensure that Canadians are well served by an unbiased, federally funded media.
I think it helps answer the question of bias. Is there bias? sometimes people make the charge, and it's hard to know what they're talking about. And if there is this kind of research, I think it helps answer those questions. So I feel it when we heard the testimony and others had suggested this during the course of the study. I guess as a committee, we felt this was a very positive thing to put forward as a recommendation.
Conservative critics have long claimed that the CBC is biased. During the last federal election, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre campaigned on defunding the public broadcaster. Alberta's UCP government has decided to take some of those higher oil revenues from recent months and put them back in the hands of Albertans. Beginning July 1st, nearly 3.4 million Albertans will be eligible to receive $100 through the new Alberta Energy Rebate. Premier Danielle Smith made the announcement Wednesday in Red Deer.
This rebate replaces the fuel tax relief program, which temporarily paused all or part of the 13-cent per litre provincial fuel tax when oil prices reaches a certain threshold. When the federal government suspended its 10 cents a litre fuel excise tax earlier this year, those savings were seemingly erased at the pumps within days and before Albertans could actually feel any relief. In practical terms, the energy rebate gives Albertans real returns now on the higher oil prices already seen in the previous months, delivering families, we estimate, over 50% more than the fuel tax relief program was projected to provide over the next 3 months.
Smith says the payment ensures money gets into the hands of families facing rising costs for everything from food to housing and transportation. Alberta's Law Enforcement Response Team, or ALERT, has laid charges against two 14-year-old Edmonton youths after they allegedly used artificial intelligence to make child sexual exploitation images of their classmates. ALERT, along with the Internet Child Exploitation Unit, or ICE, started its investigation back in March after a teacher came forward to police.
And that was as a result of taking photos of or taking online social media photos of classmates and sexualizing, nudifying those photos and sharing them amongst each other.
Police are not naming the junior high school where this happened in order to protect the identity of the victims. The two boys have been charged with making and possessing child sexual exploitation materials as well as voyeurism. Some much-needed upgrades are underway at the Tabor Health Centre this week, and BCN's Naveen Day has more details.
Temporary barriers are in place to ensure staff and public safety as construction began this week at Tabor Health Centre to modernize surgical service areas, including upgrades to the site's 2 operating rooms. The health centre is staying fully operational while the renovations are in progress.
The renovations to all of our rural facilities are important because it helps us to attract both our staff, but it helps to serve those populations that are growing and to help to reduce the travel time that patients might have to get services elsewhere.
The $7.2 million project is funded through the province's Alberta Surgical Initiative and Infrastructure Maintenance Program. Improvements include new equipment, booms and surgical lighting, upgraded air handling units, new wall protection, and cosmetic finishes to improve the appearance of the nurses' station, pediatric dental and surgical workstation, day surgery, and OR suites. The upgrades are necessary for cosmetic, functional, and safety reasons.
As a patient, what you'll experience is a much more aesthetically pleasing environment. From our operational standpoint, it improves the infection prevention and control. It also helps us with our flow, so it makes us more efficient. We might be able to, instead of, for instance, if we were only doing 3 surgeries in a day, we might be able to get in 4 because we have a better flow and efficiency.
Burkhart adds there is potential that the upgrades will allow more patient care to be done in-house, as opposed to transporting them to larger centres like Medicine Hat or Lethbridge. The project is expected to be completed in fall of 2027. Naveen Day, Bridge City News, Tabor.
The Sundre Pro Rodeo has announced the cancellation of their annual parade this year after tempers flared up over a reported Pro-Alberta float. The rodeo is set to begin this week and will kick off its 47th year and attract thousands of visitors to the small central Albertan community. However, organizers and volunteers of the rodeo say after they initially declined to enter the float that would have adorned flags of Alberta, they began receiving massive backlash and threats directed at their members. The Pro Rodeo says the initial decision to decline the float was an overabundance of caution, and they do not take political stances despite the ongoing separatism narrative.
We're very proud of what we do, and it's great for the community. It's a huge economic driver and tourist spot for the community as well. There was some caution from our committee and our parade committee due to kind of what happened to us in 2022, as there was a political float that had entered that caused a lot of backlash to our committee, and there was a lot of comments on racism and threats from that one. So we're actually very cautious about anything that happens at our organization because we're an apolitical group of volunteers. So I think we were maybe a little too cautious with this float, and ultimately came back and said, hey, like, we made a mistake and we're sorry for that. You're welcome to join the float. But at that point, they said that they had not wanted to, and the narrative was still out there that we had denied them, even though they were given access to come back. It was just increasingly getting more hostile online and direct threats to our board of directors and some of our volunteers that ultimately led to the decision that we didn't feel comfortable, or our volunteers just didn't feel comfortable participating with the parade. Our focus remains on just delivering a successful rodeo and welcoming residents and visitors to Sundre as we have in many years. And we like to think as this community event should just be bringing people together, even if we have different opinions.
The parade would have occurred Saturday and featured between 40 and 50 floats. The rodeo is still scheduled to run from Thursday through Sunday. This year, Canada celebrates its 159th birthday, and the City of Lethbridge, together with Excite Lethbridge, have partnered to make Canada Day 2026 an unforgettable celebration. Sarah Burton, facility programmer with the city, says residents and visitors can look forward to a full day of entertainment, activities, and services designed for the entire family.
So we'll have the main stage and the food trucks at the exhibition, and then we will have the youth zone in Henderson Lake. There will be a wide variety of free, family-friendly entertainment, from bouncy houses to face painters to interactive games, something for everybody, but definitely free. It's from noon until 8 p.m. The rest of the events go from noon until about 11 p.m., where we get to kick off the final day of the fireworks. If you're looking for something a little bit earlier in the day, come on down to Galt Gardens. Interfaith Food Bank will be providing breakfast sandwiches, and the LeBaron's Car Club will be doing a car show for us. They've got Indigenous activities and markets and just all sorts of different activities. Some performers down there. It's a great time. Starts at 9 a.m. We do also have free parking.
This is the second year that Excite Lethbridge has been able to team up with the City of Lethbridge to produce the Canada Day event, and for us here at Excite, it is just so great to be part of this kind of partnership. One of the cool things about Canada Day is that you kind of get a little bit of everything when it comes to the entertainment lineup. So you have a lot of your cultural and community groups, dance groups.
The celebration is supported by a grant of about $175,000 from the Government of Canada's Department of Canadian Heritage and the ongoing involvement of community partners. Summer music is set to return to downtown Lethbridge. The Allied Arts Council launches the 6th season of the Upside Downtown Concert and Arts Series. The event features a diverse lineup of local, regional, and touring artists performing free outdoor concerts throughout July and August. Will Big Bull, manager of engagement and Allied Arts Council of Lethbridge, gives more details about the summer event.
First show starts on July 2nd. We're opening the year with Skinny Dick, one of our local living legends in the making here in Lethbridge. We have a jam-packed lineup this year, full of talent from within Secaucetux and abroad as well. We have partnered with several of our community organizations as well. Bridge Folk Club, Community Foundations, Geomatic Attic, and Mike Spencer and his group. People have now come to expect it. It's becoming a tradition here in Secaucetux. There'll be food trucks, there'll be good times. It's a very family-friendly, safe environment for everybody to come have fun. We have the Lethbridge Folk Club bringing some artists from out of town. Besides that, we've got our kiosks here out on Rotary Square, and every year we keep on having record turnouts. Sometimes we have about 300 people here. Sometimes we've had upward of 500 or 600 people. And then for our big show at the pop-up Get Down at the end of the year, August 27th, we're going to shut down all of 8th Street out here.
Sounds like fun. This concert series runs every Thursday in July and August from 5 till 7 p.m. in Rotary Square at Casa. If there's some bad weeds and they don't look good, who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters, but goats. Grazing goats have made their return to Lethbridge. The adorable Billies and Nannies have returned for their 8th tour of duty in the Lethbridge River Valley. City officials say the goats are hungry and ready to devour an entire buffet menu of invasive weeds such as wormwood, leafy spurge, and thistle.
We've seen a drastic decrease in leafy spurge concentrations in the parks that we've grazed. So we grazed 3 parks throughout the city: Indian Battle Park with either Botterill or the Lethbridge Nature Reserve, Alexander Wilderness, and then also Pavan was added in 2024. In the parks that we've been doing for the full 8 years, we've seen almost every single site has had a significant decrease, some up to 100%. So there's some areas that we're monitoring where we had very, very dense patches of spurge down to absolutely zero. So it's been really, really encouraging. It's been really great to watch throughout the last 8 years.
The city says the goats will be around until July 21st, then return for a week in August to feast on anything they may have missed. Officials note Botterill Bottom Park is not opening its gates to the goats this year due to the bridge construction in the area.
Sean Haney here with realagriculture.com. Canada's agricultural sector is navigating a heavy fog of economic uncertainty as corporate attention locks onto the upcoming CUSMA review. Speaking on realagriculture.com, Farm Credit Canada's chief economist Craig Johnston warned that the real danger to our economy isn't just inflation, it's a deep stall in the business investment. While expectations early in the year pointed towards rate cuts, changing global conditions have reversed market predictions, pricing 1 or even 2 central bank interest rate hikes into the market by this time next year. Furthermore, back-to-back quarters of negative growth mean Canada has technically entered a recession. Johnston points out that uncertainty surrounding continental trade rules is forcing companies to put major capital projects on ice. To reignite local innovation and build true productivity, CUSMA must deliver transparent, rules-based stability so prairie agribusinesses can finally find the confidence to invest, expand, and compete globally. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with realagriculture.com.
Statistics Canada estimates the population edged down 0.1% in the first quarter of this year as the number of non-permanent residents dropped. The agency estimated the population at around 41.4 million on April 1st, down at 55,000 people from January 1st. The decrease came as the preliminary number of non-permanent residents fell by just under 118,000 people in the first 3 months of the year, compared with a decline of about 55,000 a year ago. StatCan says the country welcomed just over 83,000 permanent immigrants in the first quarter, compared with over 104,000 in the first quarter of last year. The clock is ticking for Canada, the United States, and Mexico to renew their trilateral trade deal. While July 1st is the deadline for the 3 countries to either formally extend the agreement until 2042 or continue under annual reviews, the deal won't actually expire until 2036. Canada and Mexico have sent letters to Washington indicating that both want to extend the agreement to 2042, but U.S. President Donald Trump says he's not looking to renew. Given how integrated many industries are in North America, most experts do not think the U.S. would be quick to pull out. June 15th was the deadline for self-employed Canadians to file their 2025 taxes. Taxpayers' ombudsperson Francois Boileau is advocating for simpler and more automated tax filing in Canada. But the complexity and size of the Income Tax Act might be a barrier. Boileau's office saw complaints rise 27% last year, largely due to delays in Canada Revenue Agency services.
I remember when I was studying law, the Income Tax Act was about that thick. Now it's twice the size, double. It's completely nuts. There are so many credits, so many, if you look at your T1, the complexity of it all is amazing. So, and not necessarily positively. So maybe it's time to streamline a little bit. So I'm not here to suggest that we need to change the act. Maybe in the next year we'll have the opportunity to come back to this issue again.
And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 264 to 35,125. The Dow is down 507 to 51,492. The S&P 500 was down 91 to 7,420, and the Nasdaq was down 354 to 26,021. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 40 cents to 75.65 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 8 cents to 3.15 US. Gold was down 75.20 to 42.5624 US an ounce, and silver was down 2.10 to 67.91 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.27 per bushel. Barley is at $6.64. Canola is at $16.86, and corn is at $7.42 per bushel. Live cattle were up 42 cents to $255.72. Feeder cattle August contract was up 55 cents to $367.42. Lean hogs were down 15 cents to $94.65, and the Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at $70.90 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, Ottawa's new Combating Hate Act, Bill C-9, will become law. MPs in the Commons voted in favor of the bill Wednesday by a vote of 189 to 128. Groups like Brene Brith Canada and the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs are pleased to see stronger protections against intimidation around places of worship, but others are concerned about the removal of the good faith religious exemption, which could see people targeted for quoting religious texts that are deemed hateful. Impacts from the policies mandated during the COVID-19 pandemic are still being felt by many Canadians. Deaths of family members and friends, job losses, broken relationships, vaccine injuries. It was a terrible time, and we all have stories to share from that time. Coming up next, though, Dean Allison, Conservative MP for the Niagara West region, will talk about the unofficial citizen inquiry that he's leading in September, giving those who suffered injuries from the COVID vaccine an opportunity to share their stories. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and our poll questions.